Digimon Survive released, and you'll have seen various reports from Twitter and gaming websites about the Metacritic score being absolutely tanked. For the first few days after release, plenty of 0 scores appeared in force, with commentary all focusing on one particular element of the game. And what's that element? It's the visual novel element! That's right, lots of people are angry that this visual novel with tactical battle elements is more visual novel than tactical battle game. People seem to be claiming they've been misled, and although it does look like a bunch of comments and reviews are being removed by Metacritic now, we can still find ones like this, or this, or this, out of place visual novel elements, or the characters being too cartoonish, or poor horror elements, and you've got to wonder whether these particular commenters looked at any of the prior marketing, because when I look at most of the trailers and the interviews and such, it makes it pretty clear that this is more of a visual novel than anything else. And I do say most of the trailers, I will come back to that one. Thanks to Fairy_Digimon92 on Twitter, we have sources for 4 separate interviews from earlier in 2022 mentioning how the story is the main focus, even going as far to call it akin to an interactive anime. From these interviews, as well as how Bandai Namco have tweeted about it as of late, it's very clear that it's a visual novel experience first and a TRPG second. And I shouldn't have to say this, but visual novels are not for everyone. Respectfully, if it's not your jam, it's not your jam. And with that in mind, I just want to take a quick moment to say that not all of the negative reviews on Metacritic are to do with the review bombing. There are some that clearly feel that the story wasn't executed very well, the animations weren't amazing, and that your choices didn't matter as much as you wanted, which I think that happens with the majority of games that say that your choices matter and stuff, but that's a side note. And there were some who felt that the battle sections weren't as in-depth or difficult enough, and that's fair criticism, that is constructive criticism, that is totally okay. There is a difference between that and review bombing, but as we've already established, it's not all constructive criticism. A lot of people are angry that it's more visual novel than anything else. It's frustrating to see when Habu has been really clear in the interviews, and the recent trailer was very transparent about the amount of visual novel in the game. Even the official description of the game from Bandai Namco speaks of the story elements mostly, with the battles at the end almost as a footnote. But alas, I said recent trailer specifically because we now get into a bit of a nitty-gritty question. If you're a fan of a game or a series, you'll often want to know a lot about it, so you will be looking for those interviews, you will be looking for those articles, you'll be following XYZ and MTP Gaming on Twitter and YouTube in order to get more information about it. But is everyone invested at that same level? A large swathe of people who buy games will only check out game trailers, and whether you like it or not, that is the way that it operates. They won't bother with those interviews and in-depth discussions. They'll see a trailer, and if it looks fun, they'll get into it, not researching every little detail. And most of the trailers that were released in the West were very heavy on those story elements, except one. And that's the trailer that has got the most amount of combined views. It's the gameplay trailer from the 1st of July 2022. Watching this one back, there is a much larger focus on the battle sections and the gameplay that comes with them. If this is the most viewed trailer for the game, is it possible that this specifically has skewed perception to make people think that there would be more battle elements in Digimon Survive? I'd argue that if this was the single trailer that you saw for Digimon Survive, which is entirely possible from those view numbers, then you could be under the impression that there weren't enough battle sections in the game because that trailer specifically was pretty heavy on those battle elements. That's not me saying that review bombing this game for being more visual novel than TRPG is warranted in any way, shape or form. Review bombing is never a good idea. What I'm saying is that the argument that everyone should have checked out every single interview and every single trailer doesn't really hold up, because not everyone is that way inclined, and you cannot expect them to be. I've seen some really interesting responses saying that people should have checked out the marketing, and yes, absolutely, you should check out the marketing, but what is the extent of marketing that reaches general population? It's likely only going to be a trailer or two. A lot of you who are into Digimon or into visual novels will do that research and that discovering and check out all of the interviews and extra marketing stuff. And despite my personal feelings on not wanting masses of information on a game before entering it so that I can have a fresh experience, I honestly feel that Bandai Namco did make it clear that this was heavier on the visual novel side of life than the battle side. I would wager a bet that the people who review bombed Digimon Survive on release had only seen that one trailer from July 2022, and therefore that is why they review bombed it. It's a real shame because, as I said, I don't think that Bandai Namco hid the fact that it's predominantly a visual novel. Even with that trailer, I don't feel personally that it does misconstrue the game, but I could see how people could interpret it that way if that was the only bit of marketing that reached them, and that is why I think the Metacritic review bomb happened. I don't agree with it, and you'll see that the critic reviews are actually pretty favourable for this game, game as well, and also the Steam reviews, which is really cool, despite the Steam crashing issue that was happening on launch. Whether you feel that you gel with the story or whether it's up to your standard is another thing, and I don't think it's devoid of criticism at all. I want to make that clear. I've got some criticisms of my own, but I'm saving them for my full review. I wanted to weigh in with my take on the review bombing and why it happened, because I think that's probably the reason for it, and also that's what YouTubers do. We talk about something that doesn't really concern us and hope that someone listens. If you have listened, thank you so much, and let me know what you think of the marketing, whether you think there was any possible way that it could have been misconstrued. As I said, we pretty much knew what this was going in if you paid attention to anything more than that one trailer, but look, it is what it is, and if you've enjoyed this video, then why don't you hit the subscribe button and check this video out next. It's going to do something great for you. It's going to really do some good stuff. I promise.